Here is Charlie Chaplin in his very first film, produced by Sennett in 1913. Chaplin has yet to create his screen character. Sennett insisted that Chaplin do the knockabout slapstick his audience expected. Chaplin wanted to make subtler comedies. He left Sennett in 1915 and a year later signed with Mutual for $670,000 a year. He was now the highest paid comedian in history. Chaplin's years on the stage made him a storehouse of English music hall lore. George Harris came from a similar background of music hall and pantomime.
Well, Chaplin, in my estimation, is pantomime. I think his every movement, his every motion was pantomime. The pantomime itself is really action without words. And after all said and done, remember, Charlie Chaplin made his name and became a world figure without any talkies, just as a silent artist.
London, 1921. Charlie Chaplin had become the most popular figure in the world.
Chaplin, he's really unfathomable. You can't pin him down. His talent was so great and so varied. He could do anything, and if he didn't know how to do something, he wouldn't say that he didn't know how. But don't show up the next day because he could tell you everything about it or do it better than the guy that originated it. This man was a great tumbler. He had great control of his body. Strong. Oh, immensely strong. Had the ability to do anything with his feet or hands or head, torso. Could do all these things and do them so well. If you said what when you were watching Chaplin, you were lost. All you could do was just watch him and just try to catch him.
Jackie Coogan's father was a vaudeville comic. And one night, Jackie joined him in the act. In the audience was Charlie Chaplin.
He was showing me off for the benefit of his friends, and it went over terrifically with the audience. And Chaplin, being a man of instant emotion, said, "I've got to get that kid."
He got him. Jackie Coogan was 4 years old. For a while, Chaplin didn't know what kind of film to make with him. He showed him off for visitors to the studio. This rare piece of film is from Chaplin's own archive. Chaplin saw in Coogan something of himself when young, for he too had been a child performer. Gradually, the shape of the film formed in Chaplin's mind. It would be different from anything he had done, a comedy with dramatic sequences. Chaplin's own London childhood, when he was taken from his mother and placed in an orphanage, was the inspiration for the kid.
He had nothing goading him on. He was his own boss, and he took the most precious thing in the world, time, and lavished it on the picture. As everyone knows, Charlie wore a crepe mustache, and they used to stick it on with spirit gum. And we had several close, very close scenes, and this glue has a sort of an offensive odor. A lot of the times, we're just sitting around. We wouldn't even be in costume without an idea. And suddenly he'd get this idea, and he'd disappear and get his makeup on and put the mustache on, and it was fresh, and that odor would come through from that glue, and that was always associated with, well, it's time to go to work.
The small boy has been looked after by the tramp since he was a baby. Now the welfare authorities are going to take him away.
The county health man comes and says, are you the father? And this, that, and the other thing. Well, he's got to go into a hospital. And they take him by force and to be put in a, which was practically condemning a child to death. And I can remember him explaining to me what he wanted me to do. Then he also explained why he wanted me to do that. And he said, because, Jackie, it's this little boy is being torn from his friend. And as he started to dramatize it, I saw it in my mind's eye. He was a marvelous storyteller, narrator. But he put it on an intensely personal basis. So that when he said camera and then action, and the welfare worker threw me into this truck, that's when the dam broke. And of course, I was really gone, and I was torn up. I want my daddy, and I was hysterical. And if you are going to portray yourself being hysterical, you better get yourself hysterical. Or whether it's as phony as a $3 bill. And then he starts out in this Model T Ford to take me to the orphanage hospital. And Chaplin pursues us over the rooftops. Well, he had a good idea. That was a different kind of a chase, where the pursued are in a car, and the poor pursuer is on foot, but over the rooftops. That was where the scene reaches its emotional peak, because we're both crying, real tears. And to see this great clown that people had always seen, you know, as a mischievous tramp, really crying was a real shocker to most people. But he couldn't leave them there. So that was the finish of the scene. So he had gone from tearing your heart out to knocking him in the aisles with it, because the greatest relief is laughter.